You'd think buying a dietary supplement off the shelf is a lot like buying an apple at the grocery store.
Right, you just grab it and go.
Exactly. You look at it, you read the little sticker, and you just assume that what you see is what you get. But today we're looking at why picking up a pre-workout mix or, a protein powder is actually more like buying a mystery
It
box.
really is.
Because you don't really know what's inside until you consume it, and by then, well, it might be too late. So in this deep dive, we are going to shatter the illusion that legal automatically means safe. And we're going to uncover the surprising, honestly high-stakes world of supplement contamination.
Yeah, and to really grasp the scale of this, we have to start with a baseline reality that, frankly, shocks a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
The data clearly shows that up to 80 to 90% of elite athletes use dietary supplements.
Wait, 90%?
Yeah, up to 90%. It is deeply fundamentally embedded in sports culture. I mean, you wake up, you train, you take your protein and your vitamins. It's just what you do.
Right, it's totally normalized.
Exactly. Yet conservative estimates suggest that about 10 to 15% of the supplement products on the open market might actually contain prohibited substances.
10 to 15%, that is a staggering disconnect.
It's massive.
I mean, if 1 in 10 apples at the grocery store contained a hidden pharmaceutical drug, there would be absolute panic in the streets.
Oh, completely.
And that brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today, really. We are focusing on the people surrounding the athletes, so the coaches, the nutritionists, the team doctors, and, even the parents.
Because they're the ones making the recommendations.
Right, because navigating this landscape requires a massive shift in mindset for those folks. You can no longer just be a casual advisor saying, sure, try that protein powder. You actually have to become an ethical risk manager.
Exactly. You have to take on that responsibility.
Yeah.
And to understand why it's a mystery box in the first place, we have to look at the fundamental rules of the game. Like, how are these powders and pills regulated?
Because I think this is where the biggest public misconception lies, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Most people, they just assume that if a product is sitting in a brightly lit aisle at a major pharmacy, or it's a bestseller on a massive online retailer, the government has thoroughly vetted it. But wait, if a product is sitting legally on the shelf at my local pharmacy, how can it possibly be an anti-doping risk? Doesn't the government check this?
What's fascinating here is that, no, they really don't. Supplements exist in this bizarre regulatory gray zone.
Really?
Yeah. Under major international frameworks, so things like the EU directives or the DSHEA Act in the United States, dietary supplements are regulated as food, not as medicine.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second.
Mhm.
Because on the surface, food versus medicine sounds like a purely bureaucratic distinction.
Right, it sounds like just paperwork.
Yeah, but the real-world implications are huge. I mean, if a company invents a new headache medicine, they have to run clinical trials, prove it actually cures headaches, and, prove it doesn't damage your liver before they are legally allowed to sell a single pill.
Precisely. That is what we call pre-market approval. But because supplements are categorized as food, manufacturers do not have to prove efficacy.
So they don't have to prove it actually works?
Nope. They don't have to prove it builds muscle or burns fat. And more importantly, they don't even have to perform pre-market testing to prove their products are free of prohibited performance-enhancing substances.
Wow.
Yeah, the regulatory bodies, like the food safety agencies, operate entirely on a system of post-market surveillance.
So it's kind of like a bouncer at a club who doesn't check any IDs at the door, but only kicks people out after they've already started a brawl inside. Like, the system is entirely reactive.
That is a perfect analogy. Legality simply does not equal safety. Because there's no mandatory pre-market anti-doping test, a contaminated supplement can be legally manufactured, shipped, sit on a shelf, and literally be consumed by thousands of people for months.
Before anyone even notices.
Exactly. Usually the authorities only discover a supplement is tainted after a problem is reported. And in the sports world, that problem is usually an athlete failing a drug test.
Which means the athlete is essentially serving as the unofficial, unpaid quality control tester for a multi-billion-dollar supplement industry.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that transitions us into the sheer psychological horror of this situation. Because the system is reactive. Who actually takes the fall when a tainted mystery box is consumed?
Well, that brings us to a foundational legal concept in the World Anti-Doping Code, which is known as strict liability.
So what does this all mean?
It means you, and you alone as the athlete, are responsible for whatever's found inside your body. End of story.
No excuses.
None. Strict liability means that regardless of your intent, regardless of whether you were completely negligent or tried your absolute best to be careful, if a prohibited substance is found in your biological sample, you are guilty.
That is brutal.
It is. For an athlete, a positive test means disqualification, a multi-year suspension, the loss of sponsorships, and just complete reputational ruin. Your career is effectively over.
Man, imagine dedicating your entire life, decades of training, to reach the Olympics. You buy a completely legal vitamin at a normal grocery store, you take it, and you lose your medal because of some microscopic trace contaminant from a factory you've never even visited.
It's a literal nightmare scenario.
It really is. But here is the kicker. What about the people who told the athlete to take it? Like the trusted coach, the team nutritionist, or the parent?
They face almost zero direct consequences.
Wait, really? None at all?
Almost none. Unless investigators can prove intentional complicity, meaning the coach knowingly and actively conspired to dope the athlete, they basically walk away entirely unscathed by the rulebook.
Wow, so there is a massive asymmetry of consequences here.
Massive.
Because the support personnel, they hold incredible influence over the athlete's diet, they dictate the training regimens, yet they bear none of the formal punishment if something goes horribly wrong.
Which is exactly why their ethical duty is so profound. These advisors, they are the gatekeepers. They cannot just throw up their hands and say, well, the label looks fine, it's not my fault. In a high-stakes environment governed by strict liability, ignorance, or just relying on a vague sense of trust in a popular brand is quite literally professional negligence.
And for you listening, think about how this applies to your own life. Think about a time you advised a friend, maybe a gym buddy, or your kid to take a new pre-workout or some trendy protein powder.
It happens all the time.
Right. And even if you don't face legal consequences like an Olympic coach might, you bear a moral responsibility if that product harms them. You are acting as their gatekeeper.
And as a gatekeeper, your first line of defense is always going to be the product label.
Sure.
But we quickly run into another major hurdle here. Supplement labels are often expertly crafted to obscure information rather than reveal it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because reading a supplement label really reminds me of reading a real estate listing.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. You know the tricks, right? If a listing says a house is cozy, it means the bedroom is the size of a shoebox.
Right.
Charming vintage details means the plumbing hasn't been updated since the Nixon administration. In the supplement world, the ultimate real estate trick is the proprietary blend.
Yes. It is a massive structural red flag.
How does that actually work?
So, a proprietary blend allows manufacturers to list a whole bunch of different ingredients under one single total weight. So they might list 10 exotic-sounding herbs and say the blend is like 1,000 milligrams.
Okay.
But you have zero idea how those milligrams are distributed among the 10 herbs.
Right, so 999 milligrams could be just cheap rice flour, and 1 milligram could be the actual active ingredient.
Exactly. Or worse, the active ingredient is dosed dangerously high. It completely hides the actual pharmacological dose.
And just to clarify for everyone, a pharmacological dose is the exact amount of a substance your body actually requires to trigger a biological change.
Right. And without knowing that exact dose, the label is essentially useless for evaluating safety or efficacy.
Then there is the marketing language, specifically what I like to call the natural myth.
Oh, this one is so dangerous.
People see words like plant-based, herbal, or traditional botanical extract, and they just automatically assume it's harmless. But, I mean, arsenic is natural. Cyanide is natural.
Exactly. And manufacturers completely weaponize that assumption. A really troubling example of this is a plant extract called Tribulus terrestris.
I see that one everywhere, actually. It's heavily marketed as a natural plant-based testosterone booster.
It is. But here's the biological reality. The plant itself does very little to actually boost testosterone in humans.
Really?
Yeah, the clinical data just doesn't support it. However, consumers buy it expecting to get bigger and stronger. If they don't see results, they stop buying it.
Makes sense.
So to ensure the product works and drives repeat sales, some shady manufacturers have been caught secretly smoking these so-called natural plant powders with undeclared synthetic anabolic steroids or prohormones.
Wait, let's break down prohormones for a second, because that sounds intense.
Yeah, so prohormones are basically chemical cousins to steroids. They're precursor molecules. When you ingest them, they don't do much on their own, but your liver processes them and actually converts them into active anabolic steroids right inside your body.
Oh, wow.
So manufacturers take giant vats of this cheap, ineffective plant powder, and they literally lace it with synthetic prohormones. They use the natural botanical label as a cover story for the illegal synthetic chemicals that are actually doing the heavy lifting.
That is wild. So you read the label, it genuinely says 100% natural herb, but the powder inside is literally a vehicle for synthetic steroid.
Exactly.
The mystery box strikes again, which means that as a coach or a nutritionist, you cannot just look at individual ingredients on a label. I mean, the labels lie. You have to judge the entire category of the product.
Correct. The data shows us that contamination is not random. It is highly predictable.
Okay, so where does it happen?
It clusters around products that promise rapid, visible, or extreme physiological effects. We categorize these as the high-risk danger zones.
And the two biggest offenders that consistently show up in the data are pre-workouts and fat burners.
Absolutely. They are absolute minefields of stimulants.
There's this fascinating, yet frankly tragic, case study regarding a professional handball player. He wanted to drop a little bit of weight, so he bought a commercial weight loss supplement. He failed a drug test and faced a massive ban. And it turned out the legal over-the-counter supplement he bought was secretly spiked with something called sibutramine.
Yes, and sibutramine isn't just a mild stimulant. It is a heavy-duty pharmaceutical appetite suppressant.
It's banned, right?
Well, it was actually available as a prescription drug for a while, but was pulled from global markets because it significantly increased the risk of heart attacks and strokes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is dangerous. Yet, because it absolutely kills your appetite, underground manufacturers secretly stuff it into commercial fat burners to make them highly effective. The athlete thought he was drinking a herbal tea extract, but he was actually ingesting a banned, potentially lethal heart attack drug.
And if we look at the marketing for these high-risk categories, the language totally tells on itself. Manufacturers targeting these aggressive formulations use words like hardcore, extreme, shredded, or advanced.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, if you see those words on a tub of powder, alarm bells should be ringing immediately.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, though. If fat burners are so risky, is there any supplement in that category that actually works legally, like without the banned stuff?
That is the ultimate irony of this entire industry. The products with the highest risk of chemical contamination often have the absolute lowest baseline efficacy.
Meaning they don't even work.
Right. When you look at the clinical data analyzing physique-changing supplements, so things like pyruvate, chromium, green tea extract, chitosan, it is a bloodbath. The science shows that essentially all legal weight loss supplements have what researchers classify as small to trivial effects.
Small to trivial, meaning they basically do nothing.
Pretty much.
I mean, the only intervention with modest, scientifically supportive evidence for actually altering body composition is maintaining adequate daily protein intake, combined with a caloric deficit and exercise. That's literally it.
Exactly. Athletes are playing Russian roulette for a green tea extract that has a trivial effect anyway. And it's not just fat burners, by the way. The data on muscle builders is even more terrifying.
Right. Tell us about that Australian study.
Yeah, so consider this major 2022 survey conducted in Australia. Sport integrity authorities wanted to see what athletes were really facing out there, so they commissioned a market sweep. They went online and bought 200 uncertified sport supplements, shopping exactly the way a typical 19-year-old athlete would shop.
And the results were kind of apocalyptic.
They really were.
Out of those random, easily accessible products, 35% contained at least one WOD-prohibited substance.
Right, think about that. You have a 1 in 3 chance of buying banned drugs on the open internet.
But for the muscle builder category specifically, the contamination rate was a staggering 53%. More than half of them were tainted.
And here is the detail that brings us right back to our label discussion. Out of all those products that tested positive for banned drugs, 57% of them did not declare the banned substance anywhere on the label or the website.
So they were completely hidden.
Completely.
Yeah.
You could spend hours reading the label, doing everything supposedly right, and still ingest a prohibited substance that ends your career.
So if the high-risk categories are a minefield and the labels are actively lying to us, how does anyone actually know what is banned? I mean, how does a coach or a nutritionist figure out what is safe?
It starts with understanding the World Anti-Doping Agency's prohibited list, which is widely misunderstood by the general public.
How so?
Well, people tend to treat it like a catalog of brand names. They search for the specific name of their supplement, and if it's not on the list, they assume they are good to go.
Right, like they assume Dubiota is banning, I don't know, Monster Energy or Muscle Farm by name.
Exactly. But it doesn't work that way. It's much deeper than that.
How does it actually work?
It's entirely functional. The WADA list is a chemical classification system based on biological effects, mechanisms of action, and metabolites. A specific substance doesn't need to be explicitly named on the list to be banned.
So it's about what the chemical does, not just what it's called.
Exactly.
Hmm.
If a designer drug has a similar chemical structure or triggers a similar biological effect to a banned class of steroids, it is automatically prohibited.
And you mentioned metabolites. For anyone unfamiliar, a metabolite is basically the chemical footprint a drug leaves behind after your liver breaks it down.
Right.
Anti-doping labs aren't just looking for the drug itself, they're looking for the ash left behind after the fire.
That's a great way to think about it.
Hmm?
So simply checking the ingredients on a bottle against the WADA list is nowhere near enough. You have to turn to independent third-party verification tools.
Like what?
We are talking about strict certification programs like Informed Sport, NSF Certified for Sport, or the Clone List.
But again, we run into a massive misconception here. A logo on a bottle is not a magic shield. You cannot just see a shiny NSF sticker on a tub of protein and assume the entire brand is perfectly safe forever. You have to check the specific batch number.
This is so crucial
Why is the batch number so critical?
because contamination often happens on a batch-by-batch basis at the manufacturing level.
Yeah.
Imagine a giant industrial mixing vat in a factory. On Tuesday, they use that vat to mix a hardcore, stimulant-heavy pre-workout that happens to contain a banned substance.
Okay.
They drain it, but they don't clean it perfectly. On Wednesday, they use that exact same vat to mix a basic, totally legal creatine powder,
Uh-oh.
right? The dust from Tuesday blows into Wednesday's batch. That specific batch of creatine is now contaminated, even though the brand itself is generally safe.
Wow.
That is why you have to go to the certifier's website and type in the exact alphanumeric batch code printed on the bottom of your specific bottle.
That makes total sense. And people also confuse these anti-doping certifications with GMP or good manufacturing practice certification.
Oh, constantly.
And GMP is important. I mean, it ensures the factory is hygienic. It means the workers wear hairnets and there are no rat droppings in the vat. But GMP does not test for anti-doping safety.
Not at all.
A factory can be surgically clean, follow GMP to the letter, and still legally manufacture a raw botanical extract that naturally contains a banned stimulant.
Which raises an important question that support personnel really have to grapple with. Can any tool, any certification, ever guarantee 100% safety?
That's the answer.
The answer is no. Certification significantly reduces your uncertainty, it drastically lowers the risk, but it does not completely remove the athlete's or the advisor's responsibility.
Because contamination can still slip through.
Contamination can still happen after testing. Or, as we see often, a completely novel synthetic designer drug might be in the powder, and the laboratory tests simply aren't calibrated to look for it yet.
So we have this incredibly complex, high-stress landscape. You've got sneaky labels, strict liability, dangerous trace contamination, and imperfect verification tools.
It's a lot to navigate.
It is. But to navigate this, experts have developed a highly structured 8-step verification protocol for athlete support personnel. It's essentially a battle plan. But instead of just reading down a list, let's break this protocol down into 3 logical phases. So the reality check, the investigation, and the defensive paper trail.
I like that structure. Phase 1, the reality check, covers the first 2 steps of the protocol, and it all starts with a very simple question.
Which is?
Do you actually need this supplement?
And it's amazing how often this gets skipped. Why is questioning the fundamental necessity of a powder so neglected?
Because of the intense psychology of high-pressure sports. In elite environments, everyone is desperate for marginal gains. The default mindset is often more is better.
Right, you want every advantage.
Exactly. If an athlete feels a pill might give them a 1% edge or help them recover 5 minutes faster, they demand it. But phase 1 forces the coach or nutritionist to hit the brakes and ask, can we achieve this exact same biological result with a food-first strategy?
Just eating better.
Yeah, can we just adjust your diet and your sleep? If the use of the supplement cannot be rigorously scientifically justified, the absolute best risk management strategy is avoidance.
The safest supplement is the one you don't take.
Precisely.
And if it is a high-risk category, like a muscle builder, the reality check usually ends right there with a hard no. But let's say they pass phase 1. An athlete genuinely needs an iron supplement or a basic whey protein. We move into phase 2, the investigation.
This is where the heavy lifting happens. You conduct a critical label analysis, actively hunting for those red flags we talked about, like proprietary blends or extreme marketing.
Right.
Then you evaluate the ingredients functionally against the WADA list. And crucially, this is where you perform that independent verification going to the Informed Sport or NSF website and checking that specific individual batch number.
You are basically acting like a detective.
You really have to.
And once you've investigated and cleared the product, you enter phase 3, the defensive paper trail. This includes documenting everything you just did, communicating the lingering residual risks to the athlete, and continually monitoring the product over time because, well, formulations change without warning.
You do, all the time.
I want to dwell on the documentation piece, though. Why is keeping a physical paper trail so vital?
Because it is your only lifeline if the worst case scenario happens.
How so?
Let's say you do everything right. You check the batch, you clear the label, the athlete takes the protein, and they still test positive because of some microscopic freak contamination that the certifier somehow missed.
Okay.
Because of strict liability, the athlete is going to face a sanction. But if the support team has a documented paper trail proving they actively checked the batch numbers and performed rigorous due diligence, WDAD tribunals will actually look at that.
Really?
Yeah, it proves the athlete wasn't being intentionally negligent. It can be the difference between a career-ending 4-year ban and a significantly reduced sanction.
Wow. So it's about shifting the entire sports culture from passive blind consumption to active documented defense.
Exactly.
These support personnel aren't just there to make the athlete run faster or lift heavier. Their ultimate job is to protect the athlete's career and their long-term health.
And that is the ultimate takeaway here. The stakes are simply too high to rely on trust.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The core lesson we've uncovered today is deceivingly simple, but incredibly hard to put into practice, and it's that legal does not equal safe.
Never assume it does.
Whether you are an Olympic coach prepping your track team for the podium, or just someone advising a gym buddy on a new herbal energy booster they saw on social media, you have to be radically vigilant. If a supplement cannot be clearly justified, transparently evaluated, independently verified by a batch number, and responsibly documented, it should stay on the shelf.
Exactly. Keep that 2022 Australian study in the back of your mind. When you buy uncertified supplements online, especially anything promising extreme weight loss or muscle gain, you might literally be playing a 1-in-3 game of Russian roulette with undeclared prohibited pharmaceutical chemicals.
You aren't buying an apple. You are buying a mystery box that could destroy your health or your career.
Absolutely.
And that brings up a really provocative thought to leave you with today. We've talked a lot about trace contamination in factories. Well, analytical testing sensitivity continues to improve at a breathtaking pace. WRD-accredited laboratories can now detect trace amounts of substances better than ever before in human history.
Oh, it's unbelievable. We are talking about finding the equivalent of a pinch of salt dissolved in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. The precision is almost microscopic.
Right. So here is something for you to mull over. As this drug testing technology becomes infinitesimally precise, capable of detecting a literal speck of a prohibited substance that blew across a factory floor into a legal vat of protein, will we eventually reach a point where every single athlete on Earth tests positive for something?
That's a scary thought.
And if our technology becomes that overwhelmingly sensitive, won't we have to completely redefine what the word doping even means?
It's a profound, almost existential question about the future of fair play in sport.
It really is. Until next time, keep questioning the labels and keep diving deep.